The Dead Sea Scrolls are often quoted as one of the most significant archaeological finds in history, and honestly, I think they deserve that title just because of their name. The Dead Sea Scrolls honestly sounds like it could be the name of a sludge metal band or something. I'm sure most people have heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls at some point in their life, but today I'll talk about the history of the scrolls and what makes them so significant. Now first, let me set the scene for you. As the story goes, a shepherd went searching for his stray goat along the northwestern rim of the Dead Sea, whereupon he found a cave nestled in the rocky hillside. The shepherd tossed a stone into the cave, hoping to scare out any stray animals, and was surprised to hear the sound of a pot breaking. Intrigued, he entered the cave and came across a mysterious collection of large clay jars. He began looking through the pots and found most of them empty, until he came across the last few intact jars. Upon further inspection, he discovered several ancient-looking scrolls. He had no idea of the scrolls' true significance and brought them back to show his family. Unsure about what to do with them, they first showed the scrolls to an antiques dealer, who deemed them worthless. Some antique dealer. Nevertheless, they continued on and met with another antiques dealer named Kondo. Intrigued by the findings, he encouraged the shepherds to go back to the site for more. The shepherds ended up bringing back a total of 7 scrolls. They sold 4 to Kondo for about 28 Jordanian pounds, or about $112 at the time, and they sold the remaining 3 to a different dealer named Salahi for about $28. Now this is when our story kinda splits into two, so stay with me now. An archaeologist named Eliezer Sukenik got wind that Salahi had some ancient scrolls for sale and wanted to check them out for himself. However, at this time, the region kind of fell into some political turmoil, but Sukenik decided to risk traveling through dangerous military zones to obtain the scrolls. Sukenik literally had to see them through a barbed wire fence, but as soon as he saw them, he immediately recognized their significance and purchased them. Now back to Kondo's scrolls. Kondo was a member of the Syrian Orthodox Church and brought the scrolls to his archbishop. The archbishop was convinced of their authenticity and purchased the scrolls. But, like I mentioned earlier, the 1948 war had begun to break out, and fearing the scrolls would be destroyed, the archbishop had the scrolls moved to Beirut, Lebanon, and eventually they made their way to New York City. He had hoped to sell the scrolls for a buttload of money to fund his church and aid refugees from the war, but he had one major problem. Despite their significance, no one would freaking buy them. This was because the scrolls were technically illegally exported and their authenticity was debated, so no reputable institution wanted to risk touching them. The scrolls ended up sitting in a New York bank vault for years, until 1954, when the archbishop bought an ad in the Wall Street Journal for the scrolls. Coincidentally, the son of Sukenik, the guy who had the other Dead Sea Scrolls, happened to be in New York when he saw the ad. He negotiated a price of $250,000, largely funded by his government, and he flew them back to the Middle East. Finally, all 7 of the original scrolls were reunited. Alright, now let's go back to the site of their discovery. After the original scrolls discovery, a search was launched for the original cave where the first few fragments were found, but faced several roadblocks due to the political unrest in the region. Eventually though, in 1949, the original cave was rediscovered and was fully excavated, yielding several more fragments. Over a period of 10 years, over 900 manuscripts were recovered across 11 caves. But where did these scrolls originally come from? The dominant theory is that the scrolls were created by a Jewish sectarian group in a settlement called Qumran. It's believed the scrolls were then hidden in 67 CE during the Jewish revolt, in which Qumran was destroyed and the scrolls were forgotten by history. While this has remained the most popular theory, it has been challenged by modern scholars. Others argue that some of the scrolls describe the early Christian community, or that the scrolls came from Jews living in Jerusalem, who hid them in caves while fleeing from the Romans in 70 CE. Let me know how you think the Dead Sea Scrolls originated. Now onto what makes these scrolls so significant. Before their discovery, the oldest Hebrew manuscripts of the Bible dated to only the 10th century AD, but the Dead Sea Scrolls predate these by more than a millennium, all the way back to the 2nd century BC. This allowed scholars to confirm or deny that the modern translation of the Old Testament is in fact accurate, and surprisingly, they were pretty accurate, rendering it reasonable that our current copies of the Old Testament are reliable copies of the original works. The scrolls also provided insight into the rules, laws, and general way of life for this sect of Jews during the Second Temple period. What I found super interesting while researching this is that one of the copper scrolls is literally a treasure map. It lists 64 locations with 91 tons of hidden gold, silver, and artifacts worth billions. While many have searched for this lost treasure, it remains undiscovered. Some believe the Romans already found it, while others believe it is still waiting to be uncovered. Anyways, that's the Dead Sea Scrolls. Bye!